Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are talking about Gemini 3.1 Pro. But before we even look at the spreadsheets or the benchmarks, I want to start by saying sorry to Google for drawing the short end of the naming straw on this one. Honestly, if OpenAI or Anthropic released their new model this morning, the vibe would be exactly the same. We have reached a point in 2026 where the naming conventions are essentially the just version numbers on a treadmill. Because here is the reality. We don't get that GPT 4.0 movement anymore. Instead, we get very incremental, very powerful releases constantly. You have seen this meme. It's the circular chart that's been circulating since late 2025. It starts with OpenAI introducing the world's most powerful model, then the needle moves to Grok, then the needle moves to Anthropic, then to Gemini, and then right back to OpenAI. It's a round robin of state of the art. With the release of 3.1 Pro, the needle has officially swung back to Google section. And look, it's an absolute beast. But the question we have to ask is, at this stage, does being number one on benchmark actually function as a barometer of model importance? Or are we just watching a very expensive game of King of the Hill? When people ask what is the best model, the answer is no longer a single word. It's shifting the target depends on entirely what you're trying to build. But if we are going to purely by IQ, we have to admit that 3.1 Pro is making a massive statement. First, look at the humanities last exam. This is the benchmark that was designed to be unsolvable by LLMs of 2024 and 2025. But Gemini 3.1 Pro just set a new high for the field. Then there is a GPQA Diamond, the gold standard for scientific knowledge. Gemini didn't just crawl up, it took a giant leap, coming in ahead of Opus 4.6. But the one everyone in the dev community is losing their minds over is Arc AGI 2. This isn't just a memory test, it's a test of novel logic, solving the puzzles the model hasn't seen in its training data. 3 months ago, Gemini 3 Pro was sitting at 31.1%. Today, 3.1 Pro is at 77.1%. That is more than double the reasoning performance in a single quarter. It's nipping at the heels of the most elite coding models on the market. Google is signaling very clearly they are building for the scientist, the engineer, and the developer who needs deep, intricate logic, not just a chatbot that can write a polite email. So it's the smartest, great, but does that actually change your life tomorrow? If you look at the recent usage surveys, a fascinating gap appears. Almost 80% of us using Gemini in some capacity every month, but when you ask which model is their primary daily driver, Google often falls to distant thought. Why is that? It's because raw IQ has become the table stakes. In 2026, being smart isn't enough to win the market. The real frontier isn't the peak intelligence, it's the ambient intelligence. The most impressive number in the release isn't 77% on the Arc AGI, it's the 96 cents per task. Last week we saw thinking models that scored slightly higher, but they did so at the cost. Google is delivering the elite level reasoning for the less than $1. That is the most important thing we need to talk about. The game has changed from who can build the biggest brain to who can make that brain the cheapest to run. If you have 2 billion Chrome users, an entire workspace ecosystem, you don't need to be 10% smarter than the competition. You just need to be smart enough and integrated everywhere for the zero incremental cost. Whoever makes the world-class intelligence cheap and ambient is the one who actually wins. Where Gemini is starting to find a unique, unassailable lane is technical and multimodal stuff. This isn't just about text in, text out. We are seeing people wipe code things that were previously impossible. There is a viral example of developer using 3.1 Pro building a realistic city planner app, simulating traffic, infrastructure mapping, and complex terrain, all from a single prompt. We're seeing mechanical engineers upload a raw CAD files and ask the model to perform heat transfer analysis, which it then visualizes in real time. So what's the takeaway here? If you're still looking for the one model to rule them all, you're going to be disappointed. That crown is going to be keep rotating every 2 weeks until the end of the decade. Gemini 3.1 Pro matters not because it's the winner of the week, but because it defines what Google's role is becoming, the highly efficient technical specialist. It might not be your primary coding tool yet. It still has some work to do on the real-world agentic performance. But for scientific synthesis, complex design logic, and making intelligence free inside the apps you already use, it's currently untouchable. The greatest gains in the AI age aren't going to come from the switching your entire life to a new model every time a new benchmark drops. It's about building a model portfolio. Use Claude for your creative code. Use ChatGPT for your daily logic. but keep Gemini in your pocket for the heavy technical lifting and multimodal magic. I'm excited to keep digging into 3.1 Pro. We'll see how the leaderboard looks next Tuesday. It might already be different, but for now, Google is on the top. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.